Welcome to the Panic Room, where we talk about all things panic-inducing. I am the Queen of Panic. Warning, some episodes may contain content that may be disturbing to others. Viewer discretion is advised. Now let the games begin.
Ben!
His grandfather whispered. Charlie rubbed his eyes and made a motion to lean up, but saw the gun and froze.
Ben, why do you have the gun?
He asked. The window panes clattered against the windows. Helen groaned next to him.
Charlie?
Nothing, Helen. Go back to sleep.
Did you say something about Ben?
No, just go back to sleep.
Ben's hands shook, and his breath came in jagged gasps.
What did you say about a gun?
Nothing, Helen. You were just dreaming.
Ben swallowed, his feet heavy as lead, his eyes hot as a furnace. How could he possibly have agreed to this? These were the two people who single-handedly pulled him out of that dark abyss. They had done nothing but open their arms out to him and show him the kind of unconditional love he'd never experienced before. And it had been wonderful. Helen rolled over and saw the scene. She didn't say a word, but only stared, eyes glazed in shock.
Ben, why do you have my gun?
Charlie asked again, more forcibly this time. Ben wanted to answer. He wanted to put down the gun, but his body wouldn't allow it. He could feel snot run down his face and silent tears try to pry free.
Ben!
He made me.
Ben blurted, his mouth acting without permission.
What do you mean, he made you?
The heater clicked loudly and hissed.
I'm sorry.
Ben, you don't have to do this.
Charlie said. His hand slowly crept to his chest.
I don't want to. I don't want to.
Ben gasped.
You don't have to, Ben. You can put the gun down. We can forget all about this.
That was all Ben wanted to do, but he couldn't. His arms were completely unresponsive.
He made me.
He choked. His chin quivered and snot trickled into his mouth.
Ben, just put the gun down.
I can't. I can't.
Why not, Ben?
My arms won't let me.
Ben blinked, and 2 tears rolled down his cheeks and fell to the floor. He looked in the window and saw the pale face of the Nameless leer through the frosted glass. He whimpered and started to hyperventilate.
I can't.
Ben, just put the goddamn gun down. We can talk about the...
Blood and bits of brain and skull exploded back and splattered across the wall and all over the bed. Ben was vaguely aware of the sound of his grandmother's screams, the brains of her husband on her face. But Ben couldn't think. He was locked. He only could react. But he couldn't. Could he do it again? He looked back at the window and saw that the Nameless was laughing. Ben began to lower the gun, but the Nameless pulled out the torture device from before and ran it up his arm. No blood came out, and Ben didn't care to keep looking. He had no choice. The bullet pierced his grandmother's chest, and she rolled onto the floor in a fit of gurgled screams as blood filled her lungs. Ben slowly walked around the bed with the gun pointed at her.
Ben!
She blubbered. Her chest twitched.
Why?
I love you, Grandma.
She looked deep into his eyes. Bang. Her lifeless corpse slumped to the floor and leaned against the nightstand, the wind screaming outside. The gun dropped to the floor. Ben didn't know how long he kneeled there, staring at the hole in Helen's head. Her glazed eyes stared lifelessly at her ceiling. Her flesh turned cold. The panels of the windows clashed against the side of the house and snapped Ben out of his trance. He picked up the gun, turned the safety back on, and stuffed it in his jacket. He walked out the back door as if he were a corpse. There were 2 gas cans left in the shed. Without thinking, he grabbed them both and went inside. He didn't notice that he'd left the door open, and snow had begun to pile in the house. Ben made his way into their room and doused the bodies in gasoline. He then poured the gas around the bedroom, followed by the rest of the house. He used every last drop. He grabbed his bag on his way out and stepped out the back door. He lit a match from the shed and threw it onto a small puddle he'd made in the doorway. The flames grew quickly, but he didn't care to watch. He wanted to leave as soon as he could. Ben didn't know how long he'd trudged through the raging snow, stumbling and slipping along the road, before he saw a pair of headlights approach him from behind. But he had no idea what he was doing. His plan only went this far. And desperate to get out of the cold, he turned around and flailed his arms on the right side of the road. After a moment, the headlights turned into a truck, and the passenger window rolled down to reveal a man in a cowboy hat.
Come on, boy. You gonna freeze the mirrors off out here.
For a moment, Ben thought he saw a second figure in the truck, just a trick from the light. Eager to escape the cold, Ben clambered into the truck and put his bag by his feet. He made sure the gun was secure in his coat pocket.
Mighty cold out to be walking alone.
The man said with a southern drawl.
You lost or something?
Yes, sir.
Ben gasped as he stuck his hands out to the vents.
Well, what's your name, kid?
Charlie.
Ben said. It was the first name he thought of. Probably not a good one to go with. His stomach sank, but it was too late now. He had no choice but to stick with it.
Where are your parents, Charlie?
Ben scrambled around in his head, trying to think of an answer.
I don't know.
He said.
I haven't seen them in a long time.
The man shuffled in his seat and glanced in the rearview mirror as he grabbed a wad of dip.
You homeless?
He asked with fingers in his mouth. The truck bounced up and down violently.
I guess so.
Ben replied. At this point, he was just trying to follow along with whatever the cowboy said.
I see. Well, my name's Teddy.
He stuck out his right hand, and Ben shook it tentatively.
Where you headed?
Teddy asked. Ben shrugged his shoulders.
Dunno.
Well, I'm visiting up from Texas for a few days, staying at a buddy's house. I reckon you can stay with us for the night until the blizzard passes through. Shoot, ain't this something though? Why, I ain't never seen anything like it. Hell, did you see that house back there? Thing was up in flames. Good thing somebody called 911, because the firefighters was already down there, trying to put it out.
Yeah, I saw.
Ben answered. He stared at the sea of white in front of them. He hadn't heard the sirens.
You from here?
He asked.
Yes, sir.
Teddy nodded.
Yeah, I lived up here a few years a while back, but I got homesick, so I went back home.
He pointed at the wooden crucifix that hung from the rear view.
See that there?
Yes, sir.
That was my old man's. He is a pastor down at our church, and so was his dad and his dad for him. But I never really cared much for preaching.
What do you do instead?
Ben inquired, trying to keep his mind away from the darker prospects.
Oh, I work with cattle.
He sighed.
I work for my cousin over at a slaughterhouse, but don't let that make you turn your head. We're kind as can be to those cows. I mostly run them through the dip. Oh, hey, I think this is the turn right here.
They turned right onto a gravelly path that went deeper into the woods. About 5 minutes passed by according to the clock before they arrived at the run-down-looking shack. Ben was observing the dilapidated building when he heard a faint click and felt something cold pressed against his head.
You say a goddamn word or try to run, and I'll blow your goddamn brains out, kid. You got it?
Teddy snarled in his ear. Ben didn't answer.
I said you got it?
Yes, sir.
He gulped.
All right.
He hissed.
Now, unbuckle that seatbelt and climb out of the truck on my side. Slowly.
Ben nodded his head a fraction of an inch and did as he was told. Teddy climbed out of the truck and kept the pistol pointed at Ben as he grabbed a lantern from under the seat and lit it. Ben thought about using his own gun, but Ben knew there was no way he could outdraw him.
See?
Teddy said after Ben's feet hit the ground.
Wasn't too bad, was it? Now get the hell inside, boy.
Ben shuffled his feet forward toward the door. Every warning about strangers who wanted to hurt him, he'd heard as a kid firing off like alarms in his head. How could he have been so stupid? If he just kept moving, if he never tried to get the driver's attention.
Move it!
Ben hurried inside, painfully aware of the gun pointed at him. His feet tripped over some debris. Looking down, he saw that trash and rubble covered the floor like moss.
All right.
Teddy leered as he closed the door behind him. For a second, Ben had an opportunity to shoot the man, but he missed.
Now, take off your clothes, boy.
What?
I said, take 'em off.
As Ben began to take off his coat, there was the sound of an owl overhead. Teddy jerked his head up for a moment, and Ben seized the opportunity. He grabbed the gun from his pocket and pulled the trigger. Nothing happened. Teddy heard the click, and Ben realized that the safety was still on. He unclicked it, but right as he fired, Teddy did too. The side of Teddy's face exploded onto the wall, and Ben was knocked violently to the floor. He wasn't even aware of the pain at first, but then his chest erupted into flames of agony. He became aware of something warm trickling down his chest. He stuck his hands under his shirt. The bullet had pierced Ben's lung. He pulled out his fingers to look at the blood and thought of his grandparents. And then Ben thought of Penny and wished that he could see her now. He wished that she could be there to hold him, to tell him that everything was all right. But he knew that the last time he would ever see her was when she told him to call her before driving away. But he never did. He never would. His vision faded to black. Ben awoke in darkness. There was just enough light to see the silhouette of a figure behind the bars.
You're all mine now, Ben.
The familiar voice said. He felt the cold metal around his wrists and ankles. He blinked, his single eye adjusting to the darkness. On the floor behind the bars lay the dead bodies of Charlie and Helen Ross, their glassy eyes staring right at him, just out of reach. Teddy's face came into view.
All mine.
The end. If you would like to submit your stories, please check out the Panic Within subreddit. I go over those stories that are submitted, and I go ahead and I narrate them. I say go over, but I narrate all of them. So if you're interested in something like that, go ahead and take a look in the description, and you'll find the link there. We also have a Discord. You can come and hang out and get spooky with me and other narrators. We post new content, up-and-coming videos, promotions, and we also just hang out and chat, and you can come and hang out with us there. If you're interested in that, link is also in the description below. And last but not least, if you are interested in doing a collab with the King of Panic or myself, you can absolutely reach out. If you're another creator, you can do one on our channel. We can do one with you. We are completely open for collab as of right now. Looking for new stuff to do and very excited for anybody who reaches out. The best way to do that is through Twitter or Discord. I do check Instagram and I will get back. It just might take a little longer because I'm super bad at that, but I've been trying to be better. So if you do reach out there, even if it takes a couple days, I'll be there. But like I said, we're excited. So please definitely reach out and we're looking forward to it. And as always,
Thank you for visiting the Panic Room. You have successfully made it to the next portion of your tour. Please stay tuned for your next prompt. Click the like button and subscribe to receive notifications for when the next portion of your tour is ready to join. Thank you for watching. Don't let the panic drown you.